Welcome to the Business Vitality Podcast. My name is Catherine Cantey. I am the host and an executive coach. I work with teams, individuals, and leaders to help create a measured leadership change. We do that using practical applications, and our clients are creating 100% measured results as seen by those around them. Not necessarily what I think or what they think, but what the other people are seeing. And they are being recognized for the hard work that they're doing. If you're interested in learning more about some of the work that we're doing, you can learn more at catherinecantey.com. I would love for you to subscribe to this show, to Business Vitality. This is my way to continue to pay it forward and share business best practices. Stay tuned and listen to the interview. Thanks for being here. John Hewitt, you are the founder and CEO of Loyalty Brands, found on the web at loyaltybrands.com. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So tell me a little bit about Loyalty Brands and what you're doing.
Well, can I go back and tell you about my history so you can, and then end with loyalty?
Of course.
Yeah, it's 55 years. I started in franchising when I was at University of Buffalo, working for H&R Block. Loved it. 12 years later, I was running 250 H&R Block locations. And my dad was CFO of a public company. He decided that we should computerize taxes. He liked the little Apple he bought by mail better than the mainframe that was running his public company. So he convinced me. We quit our jobs in 1981, built the first tax software for an Apple computer. No one wanted it, way ahead of its time. Got blessed and found a company in Virginia Beach, Virginia called Mel Jackson Tax Service. The biggest blessing was the weather's so much nicer in Virginia Beach than it is in Buffalo. So in 1982, I moved my family down to Virginia Beach. We acquired Mel Jackson. We merged the two companies, changed the name to Jackson Hewitt, and grew it and sold it 15 years later as a public company for $483 million. So went on to become $1 billion company. So I'm one of the less than 10,000 people in the United States that have founded $1 billion company. And that's Jackson Hewitt that has my name. And then I started Liberty Tax. When my non-compete ended, I had to compete with my name, my software, my system, my people. And yet we started in 2000, and from 2000 to 2012, in 12 years, we added about one franchisee a day. So almost one a day, 330 a year. Top 10 fastest growing franchisor ever. And again, Liberty Public Company became worth $500 million. So I founded two of the top 100 retail franchise chains in the country, 6,000 Jackson Hewitt, 4,000 Liberty, and sold my stock. And then I started Loyalty Brands. And Loyalty Brands, while I had a non-compete, my friend, one of my ex-employees, who's a franchise attorney, said, why don't you get out of tax? You've been doing tax for almost 50 years. Why don't you try something new? He said, I have a franchise chain. I represent 35 franchise chains, and some of them can't sell franchises. They're good at what they do, but they can't bring in new franchises. So we partner now with 8 different franchise systems. And under the Loyalty Brands umbrella, we have 8 different franchise chains. Fastest growing is, and going to be a household name in 3 years, is Zoom and Groom and our mobile pet groom.
Mm. Funny you mentioned that. I overheard a dinner conversation last week, and it was about mobile pet services. And they can't get the office to cash flow, but they can get the mobile unit to cash flow all day long. And that's what's supplementing the rest of the business.
It's the only industry I've ever seen where you open for business the first day, you're cash flow positive from day one. Mm. The demand is so high. We're only 33 months old, and we're already in 75 cities and 25 states. And every van, the minute they open for business, they're cash flow positive. It's an amazing. Pets are just it's the right time and the right place, perfect storm for pets.
That's fantastic. What are the other 7 chains?
Well, we have two tax and accounting. One is for a competitor of H&R Block or Jackson Hewitt or Liberty, for people that make under $50,000 primarily. And the other is a higher end chain that does accounting and tax. They mostly do bookkeeping and consulting, and the tax returns they do are for the higher income individuals. We also have one of the most recent ones is a roofing company that roofing, solar, and siding. And I love solar because the best sales phrase in America is tax deductible. So people love their solar. I love roofing. Great industry. We also are starting our second pet company, which is we're acquiring a company called Salty Dog, and they are a storefront grooming franchise that includes other retail products like food and treats and leashes and harness. And then we have Inspection Boys, where we inspect homes for purchase or sale, for insurance, for mold, for pools and things of that nature.
So, okay, so you've got a number of franchise systems in place. Are there similarities between them all with the processes, or what's intriguing you for different starts, I guess?
This similarity, first of all, the one thing that we require is that they have a working model that's replicable. So we find a franchise. All of these groups are small, started out very small, and they have a working model, and it's replicable, but they haven't been able to expand it. So we acquire them or merge with them and help them build out their chain.
And then is all that just headquartered with where you are today, or you're all over the place?
We're headquartered in Virginia Beach. For example, our roofing is in Hanover, Pennsylvania, about 2 hours west of Philadelphia. Our Inspection Boys is on Long Island, Smithtown, Long Island. So it depends on the group that we join as to where they're headquartered.
Fantastic. So I'm just curious, what do you see as one of the biggest challenges of these franchises that you begin to work with?
The biggest challenge is that running a franchise organization requires a special skill set. When you manage a normal company that just has employees, then most people can do that. Most executives can do that. But when you try to manage entrepreneurs who own their own business, like franchisees, it's like herding cats. They don't listen, and they're mavericks and renegades and entrepreneurs, and they think outside the box. And to get their respect and keep going in your direction requires a special skill. And what I've seen is all the organizations that we've partnered with or tried to partner with, they're a mom and pop that's very successful, right? They're very good at what they do, but they're not good at, almost none of them have been good at transitioning into a CEO of a franchise business. It's a skill set that they just don't have. So in most instances, we have to help extricate them and bring them up to a board level, executive, or a founder level, and bring in a CEO that is good at handling a franchise business and handling franchisees. And I've been doing it for 55 years, so I'm skilled at it. I brought in 5,200, so I don't know. I'm sure there's someone else that's done that. I don't know them, but I'm skilled at it. But they don't take my mentorship and guidance well, the people that we partner with. So the biggest challenge is taking great entrepreneurs who are good at running a mom and pop business and trying to transition that into a franchise chain. And indeed, most franchise chains fail in this country. 90% of them fail because, and it's exactly, well, that's one of the biggest reasons is people can't, the founders cannot make the transition to deal with the challenges of independent entrepreneurs as opposed to employees that they get to hire and fire.
You're hitting a little close to home.
Uh-oh.
It's too long of a story to hit. So I'm curious. You said you've brought in 5,200 different entrepreneurs under the different franchise umbrella. Is that right?
Correct.
All right. How do you herd the cats?
Well, first of all, you have to do what's best for every person. And my favorite Shakespeare is this: above all, to thine own self be true. You have to do what's best for every person. Now, they don't like it sometimes. Were you a franchisee at one point?
No, we just have a business that is very similar.
Okay, so this is my example.
And I lived in corporate where we had a holding company and we had 40 different brands. So we had 43 correct ways to do things because we had 43 boards of directors. So this is like hitting home on many levels.
Wow. So what happens is that when you run a franchise, you have to care what's best for each individual and do the right thing. The example I use that not anything you can do, some people are going to have a problem with. Let's pretend I had 100 franchisees and I said, I'm going to give you all $10,000. Well, how could you be upset with that? Well, the top 10 are paying you $1 million in royalties and making $2 million profit. The bottom 10 are brand new and they're not making any money. So you give the 10,000 to the bottom people and they say, why are you giving 10,000 to the people that are making millions of dollars? They don't need it. I need it. So you should give me more. And the people that pay $1 million in royalties versus the new guy that's paying minimum royalties of $8,000 says, that guy only paid you $8,000. I'm paying you $1 million in royalty. I should get 500,000 if he gets 10,000. And so, no, you're not going to make everyone happy. And so you have to do the right thing. You have to have integrity and do what you say you're going to do, which very few people, I've learned integrity is such a rare quality. Less than 5% of people do what they say they're going to do. And after all, that's the secret of success, is just doing what you say you're going to do. And the only way to get respect is to earn it. No one just gives you respect because, you know what? I built 2 companies, $1.5 billion of value. And if I met you, you have some reason to probably respect me, but I don't really gain your respect until you deal with me. And so you have to earn their respect, do what's right, even when you're faced with adversity.
All right, I'm going to question on integrity. Why do you think so many people are missing integrity?
Why is it such a rare trait?
Yeah. What's wrong with society? I'm sure you got a good answer.
Yes. I'm 75 years old this month. And as long as I can remember, integrity has continued to whittle away, and less people have integrity. The service quality in this country of all companies has declined. People, and the easiest way to sell something I've seen is to promise a bright future. That this is what's going to, and say a franchise or a business, this is what's going to happen in the future. And the greatest salespeople I've seen are they're selfish scumbags that talk about a future that's never going to happen. They're not committed to. I have the old handshake deal. It doesn't exist anymore, right? You can't find people that are good at their work. And back when I was a kid, at least in the movies and as I observed, there was handshake deals where and I learned it from my parents. My dad was, the height of integrity, that he always did what he said he was going to do. And he was obsessive about that it was a commitment that if he said it, he had to do it, or almost had to die if he didn't achieve it. But it's just the way our society's gone over the last 60 years. Less and less commitment to what you say you're going to do. Less and less honesty, but more and more, there's been a slight decrease in honesty, but a major decrease in integrity. Honesty is about talking about the past. Integrity is about committing to the future.
Okay. So tell me, you also piqued my interest. How do you go from being a business owner, that entrepreneur, into that CEO transition? You said it's really hard to be able to make that move. And I'm curious, what maybe are 2 or 3 things that people can do if they're looking to make that move? Because there's a growing number of franchises. So like, how can somebody intentionally begin to think about, this is some stuff I need to do if I'm heading this route?
Remember I said 90% of franchisors fail.
Yeah, that's why I want to know, because if we can help prepare, maybe it gets better.
And you're going to be, I think you'll be surprised, and your listeners are going to be surprised at why they fail. And it's incredibly simple, and everyone should get it, and 100% should succeed, because it's incredibly simple. And that is happy, successful franchisees. If you have happy, successful franchisees, you can't stop growth. You're going to grow like wildfire. If you don't, you can't succeed. You're going to fail. And yet franchisors build the system so that they make the profits. And in the early years of a business, you're not going to make money for the first year, 2, 3. It takes 3 to 5 years before you get to make significant profit. And so you gotta sacrifice and be good to your franchisees in order to succeed. But most franchisors, and including the ones that fail, they're not unwilling to take that hit. They're unwilling to sacrifice. So they're paying themselves $250,000 a year as CEO. I have no income, and I'm taking a salary of $250,000. Well, that's crazy, right? Mm-hmm. You have to adjust your income and your reward to the results, and they take the money from the franchisees early instead of knowing that it's not what the franchisee pays in year 1. The real treasure is that ongoing royalty, that mailbox money.
Yeah, mailbox money's fun. Tell me a little bit about managing that a third, and a third. You said the bottom third, they're not making that much money. The top third, they're just shoveling it in. And then you got the middle third. I have this analogy. It happened when I was in farm credit. We had a third of our customers that were smaller. We had a third that were just like big gorilla size. And then we had the third in the middle, and you can't make everybody happy. But then you also said that happy, successful franchisees make life better. So how do you manage the third, a third? What are some of your, I guess, tricks?
Yeah, I'm going to divide my third in different increments, right? I'm going to say let's say the top 20, the bottom 20, and the middle 60, right? The key to being a great franchisee, and that we're looking for, is doesn't matter. I've learned it doesn't matter how smart you are, how educated you are, how experienced you are. It only matters that my job is to create the best system in the industry. And I've done that for 55 years. If I do my job well, your job is to follow the system, not tinker, not know better. And no one out of the 5,200 franchisees I brought in, not one is listening 100%, not one. And unless you have children, it's real easy to identify with that if you have children. But even if you don't have children, you've been a child. So you know that there's times you should have listened and you didn't. And so the top 20%, they listen 98% of the time, 99%. The bottom 20%, they listen less than 90%. And I've created 1,000 millionaires, but I've also had 1,000 people go out of business. And it's only one thing is what percentage you listen. And so you get the people in the middle that listen somewhere between 90 and 100, 90, 98, and you got to push them one way or another. So you push the bottom out because they're never going to listen, right? They're not going to all of a sudden change it. Oh yeah, I'm going to start listening now, right? Because they told you they were going to listen from day one and they didn't. They don't even come close. And you can't fool the superstars. They're going to be superstars no matter what you do. The top 20%, they're superstars. The bottom 20%, they're losers. They're gone. They will not. So you work with the other 60%. You either try to move them up towards the 98%, or you move them out. And so you're understanding from day one that you can't. 40% of your people, the bottom and the top, you're not going to have much influence on. You find the people that you can influence and work with and train and guide and mentor.
Carly Fiorina, the I think it's the CEO of is it IBM?
She was one of those, but not Xerox, but I don't think IBM, but one of those technology companies.
Right. So she wrote a book about that 2020 and then the 60.
Oh, did she?
Yeah. Yeah, it was, and I listened to her at a John Maxwell event. It really hit home. And then I later used what she taught to be able to help do some work back here to get a federal grant for broadband. So it was, what you're talking about is dead on.
Do you know my one of my guys is big into John Maxwell, Stacy Barnes? Do you know him by any chance?
I don't know him, but John Maxwell has so much going on.
He's got tens of thousands of followers, right?
Yeah, he does. But John, he's taught us a lot over the years, and we appreciate starting with him, and then our curiosity just continues to take us further and further. So that's fascinating. Tell me a little bit about, there is a lot of failure, but talk about how failure may not always be the end.
Well, yeah, failure's the beginning. Thomas Edison, who invented the light bulb, right? He tried thousands and thousands of different formulas, and after he had failed like 1,000 times or 700 times, he said, "I haven't failed 700 times. I haven't failed once." He said, "Each time I found out what wouldn't work, it puts me closer to what would work." Yeah, the people that are most successful have made the most mistakes. So I failed more than almost anyone. I mean, you just have to get better. Vince Lombardi, my favorite football coach ever, said, you go onto the field with a plan every time to win. You have a game plan, knowing that you're not always going to win. But you're either going to win and or learn something that makes you better, more likely to win the next time. So you're always winning, either gaining information or you're winning and getting the desired result.
What's a favorite failure of yours?
Wow. A favorite failure. I'm not going to go personal, so let me say that I like to tell this story of how stupid I was. When we started franchising Jackson Hewitt, for some reason, there were 9,000 H&R blocks in the country, and if you divide the population of the country by the number of H&R blocks, that if our goal was to have 9,000. So we thoughtfully, pragmatically, strategically, we should have had 9,000 territories. But for some reason, we divided it into the population, and there was one H&R block for every 30,000 people. Well, for some reason, I gave the initial territories away at 50,000 people. And so what that resulted in, and I sold the company and we'd only sold about 1,500 territories in the country, and they kept the same mistake. They kept the same mistake. They never changed it. When I started Liberty, we changed down to one for every 30,000 people. So as a result, Jackson Hewitt only got to 6,000 locations because there was only 6,000 territory. And they continue with that mistake even to this day, 28 years later.
Wow. So how do you do that playing forward, even in like the mobile pet grooming? Like, does that play into the factor for just like another chain?
Yes, we unlike H&R Block, where there's good news and bad news about competing with a company like McDonald's or Subway or H&R Block, right? Because it's Burger King and McDonald's. You know, McDonald's spends $35,000. They do a demographic study. They find a location. Burger King doesn't spend anything. They just get next door to McDonald's. And so that's what we do with H&R Block. If H&R Block didn't need to exist, we would need to do demographics to find out where to put a location. But since they do exist, we just get next door to H&R Block. But in the mobile pet business, there's no number one. We're going to be number one largest by the end of 2024. We'll be the biggest in the country. And so it's unclear of where there should be a ban, right? We have to do demographics to figure that out. So we initially started with a territory for the first 2.5 years, we started with a territory size of 150,000 people. Now we've lowered that after our experience to 125,000 people. And so we're looking at demographics and our results to help us fine tune how to do that. It's easier if there's someone who's already blazed the path, but we're having to blaze the path because we're going to be a household name and have 3,000 vans in 5 years.
How do you do that with roofing? It's such I'm jumping into a different one of your chains because roofing is so, I guess, mom and pop. And I don't know if there's like H&R Block that you model that you can do. How do you do that with roofing? I'm just curious.
Well, when I think of industries like roofing, what I think of is long before you were born, there was no such thing as Century 21 or Coldwell Banker or ERA or EXP. Now there's 30 franchise national chains, and there was no such thing as one of them. They were all mom and pops. Back in 1950 or 1955, there was 200,000 mom and pop realtors, and then they began Century 21 was first to begin rolling them up. So I think that it should be obvious to most people that a national name has huge advantage, right? And so it's just a question of who's going to do it first, right? Who's going to form a national chain of, just like Pizza Hut did with pizzerias. Before there was Pizza Hut, there were thousands of mom and pop pizzerias, right? So before there was McDonald's, you know, there was, and they didn't start until 1956, right? There was no large chain. So it's just a matter of time until someone figures the magic formula to have a national name. National is so powerful, so powerful.
So you think you're heading that way with the roofing, solar, and siding?
That's my goal.
Okay.
Our goal is to be number one in every industry nationwide. Yes.
Fantastic. So you said you'll be leading the pet grooming at the end of this year for the nation. Do you have a forecast for your roofing, solar, and siding?
I do, but it's we just started. Pets is 2.5 years old.
Okay.
Roofing is only a little over 1 year old.
Okay.
So, and it's a much bigger ticket, right?
Oh yeah.
When you groom a pet, it's $125. When you do a roof, it's $25,000.
Yeah.
So the good news is you need to groom 100 pets to make what you do on a roof, or so it's a smaller ticket. So we'll have hundreds of offices in our third year versus thousands at Zoom and Groom.
That's awesome. And then how old is your inspection boys?
Inspection Boys, we've been with them for 3 years.
Okay. Do you have like ownership in that, or
In all of our companies, we have ownership. Some we own minority share, some we own majority share, and some we're 50-50.
and then your process, you're able to go in there and to create the processes and the systems that allow them to go out and
Right.
create the additional franchises.
Right. Think of it as a machine of admin and sales and a system of building businesses. I've been building businesses for 42 years, and as I said, I built 2 chains of 6,000 and 4,000. So that I know how to structure and build and grow exponentially.
That's awesome. In the beginning, I think even before I hit record, you said that you like to have fun and improve life. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, our mission statement is improving lives, or having fun improving lives. And I think I invented, thank God it's Monday. If on Monday morning you're going to work, you're not looking forward to it, you're going to the wrong place. And improving lives, there's nothing more rewarding. I saw Denzel Washington's, he did a graduation a speech, and he said, the most selfish people in the world are those that improve lives. And I said, what? And he said, because they're so happy. There's nothing more joyous than improving lives and changing the world around us and making it a better place.
That was fantastic. So I think you have a book. Is that right?
I do. It's called I Compete. And if any of your listeners want a free copy, they can just send a note to Loyalty Brands, and we'll mail them a free copy.
Nice. Tell me what's in the book.
It's the entire journey of Jackson Hewitt and the first 10 years of Liberty. Nice.
What questions should I be asking that I'm not asking, John? I feel like you have a wealth of knowledge.
The problem is that I do have a wealth of knowledge. For example, someone asked me, Katie, that about, I have a webinar that I do every week, and someone asked me about 6 weeks ago. He said, "What's the number one important ingredient of success?" And that's the number one question I've ever been asked. What's the number one important thing? And I answered that by saying, well, I love top 10 lists. And that started with the 10 commandments. So all of my companies have a top 10 most important things to do. We also have 10 principles for this company, each company. And I said, you know what, I'm going to come up, because there isn't just one key to success. There's at least 10 of them. So next show, I'm going to do it on the top 10. Well, I thought to myself while I was saying it, I could probably only think of 5 or 6, but I sat down and in 5 minutes wrote down 10. And then 2 days before the show, the next week, I thought of 2 more. So now I have 12. And I think it's okay to have a top 10 that has 12, because the Big Ten football has about 14 or 15 teams. So I came up, but it took me an hour to go over the top 10 most important things. So, there's lots of tidbits of information I have, but most of them take half hour to explain.
Well, one more, you'll have a baker's dozen.
There you go.
So what was the first one that came to the list when you just started to put pen to paper?
The first one was integrity.
Yeah.
The first one was integrity. And the most important one is perseverance.
Yes. Don't give up. Fantastic. All right. So, John, if somebody wants to learn more about you, they want to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
I'm at loyaltybrands.com. Easy to find.
Okay. John Hewitt, you are the founder and CEO of Loyalty Brands, found on the web at loyaltybrands.com. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Katie. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks for listening to the episode. If you like it, please subscribe, share this episode or this show with other people around you. The greatest form of a compliment is a referral. I really appreciate them. And if you think that you want to learn more about some of the work we're doing, I encourage you to reach out to CatherineCantey.com. You can schedule a call or just continue to read articles and information that we post out there. Thank you so much for being here.